Shalom, everyone. And this week we study Parashat Ki-Tisa, a very special week, a very special time of the year. We are celebrating Purim tomorrow, and also a very special time in history where we have, um, as we say, during the time of Purim, we have a culmination of the war against Amalek. Yesterday, Shabbat, was Shabbat Zachor. Zachor, remember what Amalek did, and it says over there in the special reading for that Shabbat, Timche et Zecher Amalek, you should erase any memory of the Amalek, and we will try to understand what is the Amalek, the job of Amalek in our life, in our time, in our generation, which is very, very present. And when we understand that, we can understand our own selves, world politics, much, much better, and especially what's going on around the chaotic stories that are happening around us, financially, social, whatever, politically, everything is revolving around one thing, which is the story of the Amalek. However, we're starting the Parashat Ki-Tisa, the book of Exodus, chapter 30, verse 11. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God speaks to Moses, saying, כי תישא את ראש בני ישראל לפקודיהם. When you raise the heads of the children of Israel, how do you do that? ונתנו איש כופר נפשו לאדוני. So the last two parashot, תרומה and תצווה, we were still on Mount Sinai. Parashat Ki-Tisa, the beginning, we are still on Mount Sinai. It is still the law being given on Mount Sinai. And the parasha is starting with the word Ki-Tisa, which is a very important concept. It repeats itself in different names of parashot. We have Ki-Tisa, we have Parashat Naso, Beha'alotcha. All of them revolve around one thing, raising. But we had all that also in Parashat Teruma. How do you raise oneself? How does somebody raise himself? And here the idea is Teruma, and in Parashat Teruma, 2 weeks ago we learned about that the word Teruma does not mean contribution or donation, which is the context this word is being used in Hebrew. However, it is coming from the word to raise. That's why maybe in English you raise donations. Why not collecting donations? You can say that also but why raising? And here's a mistake. You do not raise the donations. You raise yourself every time you donate. Here the same. Ki-Tisa means also when you raise the heads of the children of Israel. How do you raise somebody's head? When you make them feel important, when they make them feel ownership, when they make them feel that they're being needed. That's how you raise somebody's head. So because when a person does not feel needed, does not feel that he has anything to give, does not feel any importance in any any role carrying any role, the person goes with the heads down. That's basically, that's how you say. And how do you raise somebody's head up? By giving them the opportunity to give, to share, to do something for someone else. So when you feel down, again, down, the head is down. When you feel that you're confused, you don't know what to do, the greatest secret is do something for someone else. Get out of yourself and do something for somebody outside yourself. By attaching to that concept in the Torah, Parashat Kedoshim, love others as you love yourself. Uh, Translated basically wrongly as love your neighbor as yourself. It doesn't say neighbor. I don't know why the word neighbor is mentioned over there. In English, it says love the other one as you love yourself. Why? This is the concept the whole Torah is standing on. And we spoke about it a lot. So now, how do you raise somebody's head? How do you make somebody feel that I'm here for a purpose? I'm important by making them or giving them the opportunity to do something good for somebody else. And here, in that case, it says the rule is like this: if you want to count people, never count them, because when you count them, you limit the life force in them. However, how do you make a census? So the Zohar says you raise their heads. You give each one the feeling that they are important, and that by each one giving something for the tabernacle. In that case, this is the tabernacle, or, you give a shoulder, you just do something for the greater good. And in that case, it is said everybody should give half a shekel. Why half? Why not give already the whole shekel? And we explained it already in the past that each person was supposed to give half a shekel, and it says very clearly, verse 13, Zeitnu kol haover al הפקודים, whoever is going to be in the census, מחצית השקל, half a shekel. So first of all, the word is מחצית, half. And there's a very nice drush about it. If you take the word machatzit, it's made of the letters mem, chet, tzadik, yud, taf. The middle letter is tzadi, which is the letter for tzedakah, charity. That's the power of life. Whoever is closer to charity, to giving, what is it about? So you look at the word machatzit, and you see that the two letters that are neighboring the letter tzadik, tzedakah, are the letters chet from the right, yud from the left. You get the word chai, life, alive. Whoever is connected to tzedakah is alive. But the two letters who are the farthest from the tzaddik, that's the first letter from the right, mem. The last letter from the left, this is taf. Together, met and taf gives you the word met, dead, which means whoever is holding on to charity, to tzedakah, is alive, chai. Whoever is farther away from tzedakah, from charity, from giving, is met, dead. And then it continues, 20 gera shekel, every shekel was made of 20 units called gera. Why is it important to mention these 20 units? When we give half a shekel, we give only 10 units, 10 gera. Okay, so what's important about it? So one of the biggest concepts of spirituality is the concept that we have to remember. It is basically a description of a cosmic law. And the cosmic law is about how do we receive. Everybody wants to receive a great life. Everyone. We are built for that. We're supposed to want that. We were created by the Creator Himself to want His bliss and His light. So, what do we do all our lives? We are looking for the bliss, we're looking for the joy, we're looking for the fulfillment, and this is totally normal, not just normal, uh, it's a great sin not to look for happiness and fulfillment. Why? Because the one and first reason for the creation of the human soul is the desire of the Creator to share with us. A lot of people make a mistake like the Creator, when He desires, it's a lack. No, it's not a lack, but it's hard to explain. The Creator is infinite, giving, love, and positive energy. When that positive energy and light is expanding from the source, that's basically the reason for the creation of the vessels of humanity, which is manifested by our souls. You know, when a person is losing his soul, which means he dies, he doesn't want anything. So the desire is coming from the soul. And the soul is defined by that entity that is the source of human desires. People who are dead, they don't want anything anymore. Only living people that they still have a possession over a soul. So, what is the problem? That after the tzimtzum, after the shutting down of the light, why? We said it many, many times, the Creator created us as His vessels to receive His expanding infinite light. We received that light, however, we were imprinted with the nature of the light, which means the light is the great giver. We can enjoy only when we really give. When we are takers, I don't know if you notice, but takers are never happy. Okay? Just being busy with the desire is a big, big mistake. Why is it? The more you want, the less you have. Because there is a cosmic rule called the rule of affinity, shivui tzura. Similarities attract. You want to draw the light in, you need to reach the vibration of the light, which means he is generous, you should be generous. He is merciful, you should be merciful. He is loving, you should be loving. Because similarities attract. However, when we are focusing on our need and desire, which means when we are focusing on how much we want, how much we miss happiness, power, whatever, it's the biggest mistake. Why? Because similarities attract. The moment someone is occupied with how much he needs, how much he desires, he is becoming the farthest away from the source of fulfillment, from the light itself. Okay? So if you want to get closer to the light and to be connected to the light, you have to create a resemblance to the light so you can get closer and connect to and communicate with. How do you do that? If you want 10, of course, who wants 2? Who wants 3? I'm talking about out of 10. You know, when you want to grow up and to become a family member, what kind of a family do you want from 1 to 10? Everybody wants 10. Okay? What kind of joy you want to have from career from 1 to 10? 10. Okay? But the point is like this, as long as you focus on your desire, on your lack, you stay the farthest possible from the source of fulfillment. How do you bridge that gap? By focusing over giving, sharing, kindness, and mercy. So therefore, you want to connect to God. God is telling the Israelite nation, you want to build a tabernacle, but that should come from a place of raising yourself by giving from of yourself. And therefore, in this case, there was this very very precise action, in addition to all the contribution they made for the temple, that every living person will give half a shekel. Now, the shekel had to be a silver shekel. Now, in Kabbalistic symbolism, gold is judgment, gevurah, red, and silver is chesed, loving kindness, which is the right column energy, and that is silver, the white metal. So you need to balance between the two. How do you do that? You don't give up on wanting, desiring to be happy, but if I'm going to be happy, I have to make somebody else happy. And that's where charity kicks in. When we're really involved with being there for somebody else, we think like we do someone a favor. No, we do favor with ourselves because we raise our frequency when we give. And that's what the word teruma, tarom hey, raise the hay. Or Ki-Tisa, when you raise the heads. How? Giving half a shekel. When you give half a shekel, you generate, according to the symbolism that the Torah is talking about, you generate the power of 10 sephirot, 10 emanations of the desire to share, to give, to impart. When you focus on that and you give selflessly, you give really with all your heart, you generate those 10 sephirot of giving. Those 10 sephirot of giving, they can interact with the infinite light of the Creator, and they can encompass it, dress it up, cover and basically contain it, because they're having similarity. This is giving, this is giving. This is caring, this is caring. So when we generate that thing of being that giving person out of your frame, out of your needs, away from your selfishness, and you genuinely learn how to be there for someone else, you generate more and more vessels of 10 sephirot of returning light. This is the only sustainable vessel in our universe. A vessel that is based over selfishness alone can get you far, but not too far and not too long. Sooner or later, the fire of the judgment, of desiring, or the need, the drive to achieve and to achieve and to achieve, finally, that will backfire, and you will look for what's missing. I was looking for something bigger than life. The only thing that is really bigger than life is the light of mercy, the light of chasadim, the light that we generate when we are there unconditionally for someone else. Okay? So when the Israelites were supposed to approach that great task of creating the tabernacle, the portable temple the Israelites carried with them in the desert, they were taught that if you want to connect to the highest level of spirituality, you have to generate the highest level of purity and giving when you're coming from the place of materialism and receiving and selfishness. That is creating the magical vessel that is made of 10 sefirot, 10 emanations, however, that vessel will become the vessel for the true, authentic light of the 10 emanations. And then the unity between the light of giving, the light of love that we generate when we give, with the light of the Creator, the light of fulfillment that He generated, when we reach the unity of these two forces, we create a vessel, an authentic, valid, sustainable vessel that will stay for long. Because when we approach any kind of joy and happiness, it's all about me. I'm enjoying that so much. Who else enjoys that? I don't know. I don't care. That's selfishness. So when we overcome our desire to enjoy by ourselves and we replace it with a desire to share it with others, Ki-Tisa, you raise people's heads. Instead of being in a meaningless part of your life that you're just, okay, what is that I can take right now from the universe? Happiness, joy through money, joy through food, joy through whatever. Okay? This is not raising your head. This is not teruma, raising the hay, raising reality. How do you create it? So that's the beginning of the parasha about the giving of half a shekel. Every year, in memory of the giving of the half a shekel, it is customary to give half a shekel before the reading of the Megillah, and the giving of half a shekel, it has to be the worth of 9.6 gram of pure silver. Okay, when you give that for charity, for the social needs and stuff like this, this is called machasita shekel. And that is what creates the vessel to receive the great bliss of Parashat Ki-Tisa and the reading of the Megillah, which means bringing in the awesome power of the bliss that we receive through the days of Purim. Okay, so after that, especially verse 15, where it says, He'ashir lo yarbe, if you're rich, you cannot give more than 10 shekels, which means 10 gerah, half a shekel. Ve'ada lo yamit, and what if you're really poor? You should not give less than half a shekel. ולקחת את כסף הכיפורים מבני ישראל, and you take all that silver of atonement. You can read it also as atonement. That silver of selfless giving is coming back sooner or later, because when you think you're doing somebody a favor, when you give them and you share with them, no, you're doing a favor, first of all, to yourself, because you create your own universe by doing that sharing. And that custom is being held till these days, of giving half a shekel for every person in the household. And as we said, this is like 9.6 grams of silver. I'm not going to say how much it is today because it's changing all the time. Then we're speaking about the copper. And the copper has been used, vasita kior nechoshet. It was used for there was a great basin of copper. The water were stored over there, the water that the Kohanim used in the temple for drying, cleaning, washing. And it is explained in the next verses. And then we have The next story, verse 22, chapter 13 in the book of Exodus. ואתה קח לך בשמים ראש מור דרור. And no, you should take for yourself incense, whatever is materials for good smell. And it starts with ראש מור דרור, which the Kabbalists say it's a secret. What does it mean, ראש מור דרור? And it says the Mordor, it says in the translation into Aramaic, Mira Dachya. Mira Dachya or Mordechai, pure myrrh. Mordechai, we know Mordechai from the story of Purim, that is always adjacent somehow to Parashat Ki-Tisa. So we realize that the word Mordechai is basically two words, pure myrrh. Pure myrrh is a name of a higher light. After that, we're talking about the oil, the holy oil for the anointment. Anointment, this is Mashiach. What is Mashiach? The word Mashiach in Hebrew, the person that was the anointed one. So why with olive oil? Why not with something else? And the answer is because the olive oil connects us to the levels, the upper level of Chokhmah. So why do we read all of that just as an introduction to the great elephant standing in the room, which is, and that's after many other mentioning of different very powerful tools in the temple, and Shabbat. And then we come to a very important part of the Parashah, chapter 32, verse 1 in the book of Exodus. וירא העם כי בושש משה לרדת מן ההר. And the people, okay, saw that Moses is late coming down from the mount. Till now, as I said, we're still on Mount Sinai Revelation. ויקהל העם על ההון, so the nation, the people, gather upon Aaron, ויאמרו אליו, and they tell him, קום עשה לנו אלוהים, get up and make us a guide, a prophet, someone to follow him. אשר ילכו לפנינו, let them walk in front of us, because we have no idea what happened to Moses. And the legend is saying Moses told them he's going up the mount for 40 days. Now, the legend is saying that Satan made it look like 40 days are already over, and there's a war, there's something really upsetting, they didn't know what, and then they saw Moses' bed carried out. Oh, he died. So now we need a replacement. We need somebody that will lead us and take us all around the world till we come back on the 40th year and resettle in the promised land. So that's why they come to Aaron and they say, Kum aseh lanu Elohim, get up, make us a God. They didn't want the image of the God, the image of a God. Asher ילכו לפנינו, and that leader will walk in front of us and will guide us. כי זה משה האיש אשר העלנו מארץ מצרים, because that guy, Moses, that brought us from the land over here from the land of Egypt. לא ידענו מה היה לו, we have no idea what happened to him. So we want a replacement. So all the commentators are saying achieving a replacement, achieving something so lofty, this is a much, much bigger story than we just said. So here we are, the nation of Israel, building a portable temple, okay, to God, so the light of God, the Shekhinah, can dwell upon or over that structure, the tabernacle or the portable temple, and so on. Why? Why the name of Aaron is involved over here? So Aaron was the leader while his brother was away because he was second in command. So Aaron, verse 5, וירא אהרון ויבן מזבח לפניו. So Aaron saw and he built an altar in front of him. ויקרא אהרון ויאמר חג לאדוני מחר. And Aaron called and announced, tomorrow is a great holiday for Youdkevitch, the tetragrammaton. That's the name that symbolizes, okay, the creator. וישכימו מחרת, and they got up early the next day. ויעלו עולות, and they brought offerings. ויגישו שלמים. וישב העם לאכול ושתו. And the people sat to eat and to drink. ויקומו לצחק. And they were really into happiness and excitement. However, it didn't work well. Verse 7, וידבר אדוני אל משה, לך רד, כי שיחת עמך. And God speaks to Moses immediately. He says, go down immediately. Your people desecrated the holiness. אשר העלית מארץ מצרים. You cannot enjoy all of all of that greatness. Why? Because your people had been corrupted. What do you mean your people? So the Zohar says something that we really, it's very important for us to know. Okay. The story was that they thought is late. They are now without any leader. And the people wanted a leader. However, here's a little problem. The people that approached Aaron asking him to make them a leader were not the nation of Israel. They were Erev-Rav. What is the Erev-Rav? The Zohar is explaining something very important. We can read it in Parashah Ki-Tisa in the Sulam commentary, verse 60. אלא Erev-Rav עלה איתם. When the Israelites left Egypt, Erev-Rav came with them. What is that Erev-Rav? So usually the translation is a multitude of nations. This is the accepted translation. However, the Zohar is challenging that translation, saying like this. He said Erev-Rav came with them, but without naming the nations that those slaves were enslaved, were coming from. Why? כי עם אחד ולשון אחד היו, because it was one nation and one language. Which one? Egyptian. אבל כל המכשפים של מצרים וכל החתומים שלהם היו. They were all the warlocks and the sorcerers of Egypt, שרצו לקום כנגד הפליאות של הקדוש ברוך הוא ולהראות שגם הם יכולים לעשות כמוהו. They were the sources, they had the power, and they wanted to show that their power is stronger than the power of witchcraft they thought brought by Moses and Aaron. כיוון שראו הניסים והנפלאות שעשה משה במצרים, as they saw all the miracles performed by Moses in Egypt, חזרו אל משה, they came back to Moses. אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא למשה, לא תקבל אותם. They came to Moses, take us with you. We don't want to stay part of Egypt. We want to be with you because we feel, we know that you are going somewhere far up and above, and we want to join you with it. Why didn't God say no? Asks the Zohar. Verse 61. שואל למה קרא אותם ערב-רב? Why did he call them Erev-Rav? הוא משיב, and he answers, but כל המחשבים של מצרים היו, ובראשם יונוס ויומבוס, ובשעות היום אחר 6 שעות היו עושים תמיד כשפיהם. They were called Erev-Rav not because it means that they came from many nations. No, they were all Egyptians. And their leaders were Yunus and Yumbrus, 2 sons of Balaam. And they were doing always their witchcraft afternoon, early afternoon. And the word Erev-Rav, says the Zohar, I want to make it short. The word Erev-Rav means this is Erev-Rav. This is like the time the sun is starting to set. It's called afternoon. However, during the afternoon, there's a very powerful force in the universe. Is the force of judgment. So you need to bring peace to that judgment by the afternoon prayer. Meanwhile, the name of the prayer is Mincha. Mincha means an offering that brings menucha, rest. Okay? However, rest to what? To the judgment. So those Egyptians that came with the Israelites out of Egypt, why did they go with the Israelites? They could easily away. Here's Egypt, gone. He's a goner. Like, Egypt will never become an empire again after the Exodus. It's over. The great society and culture of Egypt from now on is going to be defeated again and again. They were defeated by the Babylonians and by the later on the Assyrians and then the Greeks. Egypt never came back to itself. Now, so why did God say to Moses, do not take them? First take the Israelites, bring the Torah, bring them to the Holy Land, then you go back to bring the Egyptians. Those Egyptians. And the answer is that Rabbi Isaac Luria the Arizal is explaining something very important. Very important. Humanity is a collection of many, many souls that all of them are sparks of Adam and Eve, where it says, and male and female, he created in his image. He created him, male and female, he created them. Adam and Eve were already created, complete, but they needed to go through some challenge to apply it, to have ownership. And this is one of the greatest of them all. Now, after the sin of Adam, there were a big group of neshamot, souls, that were more intense than all the others. Therefore, they fell deeper than all the others. And therefore, when they came out again to start the process of tikkun, of themselves, they were so intense, they wanted something truly powerful. And they didn't let go till they found what we call Mount Sinai revelation. However, there was a split. The majority of those souls who were involved in anything in human history of great revolutionary ideas, we are talking about the generation of Noah, the flood. With the intensity of those people, Noah got that push and drive to build the ark, to save the animals, and also to save the human race. However, the next stage, there were two kinds of them. And Rabbi Azakloria explains really clearly. Listen carefully. When it was the time to redeem the Israelite from Egypt, it was the time because the same way, when you put a cake in the oven, the baking time, it has to be kept, must be kept precisely. Why? A little bit longer, it's going to be dried up and maybe burned. Before that, it will be too moist and not really baked. So the timing is very important. What Rabbi Ezekloria is teaching us, that those very intense souls who also incarnated in the most powerful souls in the time of the flood, there were those souls that incarnated again into those souls that were in the story of the Tower of Babel. And they incarnated again into the Israelites in Egypt. However, because the Israelites in Egypt started a procedure of cleansing with Abram, Isaac, and Jacob, and then the extremely tough survival in the Egyptian slavery, with all the abuse that was there, and there was a lot of it, now the refinement, like you refine gold or silver by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and later on the really harsh conditions in Egypt, that refined those very special souls. And when they came to Mount Sinai, they were ready. However, many of them did not go through the refinement through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and through the slavery in Egypt. They were in Egypt, many of them. Because of their intensity, there were some of the greatest warlocks and magicians of Pharaoh himself. However, when Moses was cleansing the last bits and pieces of Egypt and the Israelites through the 10 plagues, those warlocks and witches and sorcerers realized that they want to follow Moses. They did not want to stay in Egypt. God told Moses, as a Zohar, saying, do not take them. Bring them back, as we said before. Leave them here, and after you settle the Israelites in the land of Israel, you can come back and pick them up. Moses wanted to gamble on the whole thing at once. And then happened the story of the golden calf. They did not see Moses. They needed something to hold on to, so they made the golden calf. Those people are called the Erev-Rav. And what does it mean? If you really want to understand, because we see that, as the Zohar is teaching us, even today, 33 centuries later, 34 centuries later. And what does it mean? Because those who went through the refinement through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And well, they didn't have easy lives, by the way. Okay, they had to fight for that refinement. They had to fight for that closest to the light of God. And also, the refinement in the iron furnace of Egypt brought the Israelites to a place it was much easier for them to come to Mount Sinai and to feel one with each other and to really commit to help each other. However, the Erev-Rav who joined, they were also, the source of their soul was similar to the source of the Israelites. The only one difference was there was no refinement process. They had very raw, powerful klipot, shells, negative forces holding on to them that were not removed by the journey the Israelites took. Therefore, on one hand, they were intense, very intense as the Israelites. On the other hand, they were very much intense in the journey after power, energy, force, money, whatever you name it that people are running after. That was too strong for them. And when that took over, they couldn't basically endure the great light that appeared on Mount Sinai. So they were looking to a way to shut it down. And they did it with the golden calf. Okay? Here we had in the Parashah the silver that is being used for giving, because silver is a white metal symbolizing the power of chesed, and that's whatever needed to be connected to chesed in the temple was made of silver. However, the gold is red. This is the left column. This is the receiving aspect. This is the judgment. That's why they made a golden calf, not a silver calf. And that drew the power of bliss and light without the returning light. So what was the result? High and by. So who made the golden calf? The Erev-Rav. So why were the rest of the Israelites, why they were punished? Because they were there, they didn't stop it. When you see atrocity happening in front of your eyes and you can protest, you should do that, says the Torah. Okay? And if you do not do that, the sin is upon you because you were supposed to tell other people about it and you did not, without them knowing what's right and what's wrong. So when they created the golden calf as the leader, but the real message was they wanted to satiate their hunger for power, for wealth, for success, because that is the kind of the souls we're talking about. However, as we said, because they were not refined enough, there was still that raw selfishness that basically controlled them. That lingered, says the Zohar, till today. And you can still today see people that on the outside, in the Jewish people, on the outside, they look like very righteous people, very religious people. But if you really listen carefully for them, you realize that the whole story about building synagogues, making yeshivot, teaching and teaching and teaching, it's all about few very simple things. The desire to achieve wealth, the desire to achieve power, control, politics, and the desire to accumulate everything that is good, but on a selfish note. You can still find a lot of that. Even the leadership of the Jewish people till today says the Zohar, that's a prophecy of the Zohar because the Zohar was written some 2,000 years ago. And he says, in our generations, you'll see in the leadership of the Jewish people, judges, rabbis, teachers that are totally Erev-Rav. How can you see, how can you tell in a simple way an Erev-Rav? So we realize that the difference between the Erev-Rav and the rest of the people is the Erev-Rav are still carrying like baggage, klipot, negative forces that were not cleansed yet. And that, on one hand, they have a very intense desire to achieve. On the other hand, it always takes them to a selfish dimension. And therefore, on one hand, they're never satiated. On the other hand, they don't have real, true grace, loving, and kindness. When a person is really enlightened, he is not judgmental. He realizes when other people make mistakes, yes, what can you do? They're like a fruit on the tree. It's not sweet because it's still in the process of till the fruit will be completed. Okay, ripe. Now it's bitter. Now it's hard. It's not ripe. Very simple. So another thing that the Zohar speaks about it, and we have a lot about it written among the Kabbalists, either by the introduction of Rabbi Chaim Vital, the student of the Ari. You have the Vilna Gaon, one of the greatest Kabbalists in Lithuania, in the one of the greatest teachers ever in the 18th century in Vilnius. And he speaks, I'll read from the Vilna Gaon about commentary about the same chapter of the Erev-Rav and the Amalek. And the Vilna Gaon is saying, Chamisha Minei Erev-Rav. It's a summary of the Zohar about it. There are 5 different kind of Erev-Rav. Balei Machloket Uvalei Lashon Hara. The first one, those are people that will always create fight, strife, feud, anything of bad-mouthing others. Okay? That's the first kind. The second one, so, they're the ones who are about making people hate each other, instigating hatred. The second one, they're the ones who are chasing after lust. Anything, especially like sexual lust. The third are cheaters. Shemarim atzmam ketzadikim. They show off as righteous. En libam shalem, but their heart is not there. It's just a game for them. They play like they're righteous rabbis and great teachers, but they're really, and sooner or later you hear about all kinds of sexual atrocities. The fourth, harodfim achar mamon, the one who are after achieving and getting as much money as possible. And the fifth, and he speaks here about 4, I don't see but he says the worst of them all are the first ones, the one about hatred and fight, and they are called Amalek. So among the Erev-Rav, one kind of, there's another one. The Zohar is saying, Rephaim, that those are the people that are really powerful and strong. However, when their people need them, they let go. No, I'm not here to help. Although you can help. So you can find that among the Jewish people. And that's called, and the worst of them all are the Amalek. They are the ones who hate. And I'll explain again, what does it mean? But among the nations of the world, you'll see Amalek also. Again, what's in common? The ones who are Amalekim among the Jewish nation, they will be so much against whatever is truly spiritual. Why? Let me explain that. It's not, we all know that we all have uh, some journey to make before we reach completion. We all have that. How do we make the journey? Love others as you love yourself. This is the highest level of, you know, measurement that I check myself. How far am I? If I feel tolerating other people that are not so good, okay, and I don't accept it, I don't agree with it, and I always will know how to put the boundaries, but I don't hate them. I understand that they have a journey to make because they still have klipot, dark forces within them, and they have to overcome those dark forces. They are not ripe yet, not enough. And how do I know they're really far away from the journey? Because they are obsessed with pathological hatred. You have them among the Erev-Rav, and you have them among the nations of the world. In both, you see one common thread: the hatred for whatever is truly, authentically spiritual. Now, more than that, they will be against what we call yichud. I spoke about it before. I want to go deeper into it. What does it mean, yichud? Yichud means in Hebrew unification. Uniting what? So we have to understand that the world as we know it today is basically divided. You have the upper world, the spiritual, metaphysical dimension of bliss and love and wisdom and all that is good. And you have this physical dimension, materialistic dimension, and it looks like, to the untrained eye and heart, that there are two dimensions. He is in the heaven and you are on earth. God is in the heaven, I'm on earth. Okay? So that's not unification. This is division. Perud, not yichud. Perud. When a person has a theology in which God is up in the heaven far, far, far away, and in order for me to get his attention, I have to sacrifice myself, my money, my children, whatever, I have to sacrifice for the great good. This is like idol worshiping, because that's what the idol worshiping was doing. God is there, I am here, and I have to negotiate with him. But the God of Mount Sinai, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we always go back to Yichud. Melo kol haaretz kevodo. The whole earth is full of his glory, which means, where is God? There's no place empty of his existence, because nothing, that I can talk about, or whatever I can talk about, whatever I can experience and feel, either a book, I can take a book, I can take a glass of water, I can take a plant, I can take an animal or a human being, all of them, they exist only because there is godly light within them, which means you cannot separate between the heaven and the earth. You cannot separate between God and his creation. They're all one. So why you have to unite them? Because there is a creation. Part of the creation is the illusion that God is above and we are below. Our job is to call in the divinity and to feel the divinity in everything, especially in ourselves. And the moment you feel that, you realize that every creature, human or not humans alike, is basically the way God manifests himself, even inanimate. And therefore you respect matter. You do not steal. You respect life. You do not kill. You realize you have no right for, anyway, to steal somebody's right for happiness. Okay? So that is called yichud, unification. So there are the meyachadim, those people that through the prayers, through their life, the way they see everything, the way they study, it's all about to have that consciousness, that perception that God is everywhere and there's nothing but God. When we do that, when humanity realizes that place, that's Messianic days, which means how can we explain the verses in the prophets speaking about world peace and all that great, amazing life that everyone is united and loving and no wars, no judgment, no stealing, no hating, nothing. Because when you realize that God is everywhere and God is in the person in front of you and you are so much involved with that, that's the Messianic era. Then you do what you're supposed to do and you never transgress the laws of the Torah. And the moment humanity is with that state of mind, lo yareu velo yashchitu, no one will do evil. No one will corrupt, as the prophet is saying. Okay, everyone will be cooperating as the Torah is teaching us to do. That will be heaven on earth. Okay, that's a messianic era. However, the more negativity a person is still having, the less Yichud is capable of creating. Then you can have like the idea of me and them, which means if I don't take first, I will stay with nothing. They will take it away from me. So that's the law of the jungle. And then you behave when what is running your logic is fear, obsession for security, whatever, like an animal. But because you're human, it's going to be accelerated. So then you are in anxiety and hatred and competition. Everything coming out from that place that I want to have. I want to have enough. So what the Zohar is saying in many places when we're coming to the days of redemption, we will see the Erev-Rav among the nation of Israel. We'll see rabbis. We'll see leaders. We'll see different scales. We'll see those ones who are totally atheist. What does it mean? There's no God, no rules. Human beings are totally, and I spoke about it many, many, many times before. And therefore, we can invent our own rules for humanism and justice. But you know what? When you are not aware of your hatred, whatever is divine, your hatred for whoever holding to divinity, your hatred to God himself, and you're possessed by that obsessive hatred, you can't think straight. The result is you'll be obsessed with hatred. And that's why since I was a little kid, there was watching on TV those philosophers of academy who would ask my parents why they're angry all the time. if they're really wise, why they're not happy? Something is wrong with it. This is a lie. You know those people? They are like, how do you call it? They are like spiritual leaders, academy, philosophers, but they're always hateful. They're always angry about the bad guys. That's not a way to live a life, to be always against. It's a lie. It's just ego. This is Erev-Rav, and therefore the obsession against everything that is connected to divinity. The Torah, belief systems, faith, and anything that is connected, especially to faith and simple faith in God. But in religion, you see also those people that they preach, they're religious, but it's all for power, all for control. And how do you do it? You instill hatred and fear in people's hearts. Your whole teaching is about God is there and you are here. God is great and so much above, and you are filthy. You're nothing. You should only feel guilt and you should submit to us. Give us the money, give us the power. Let us abuse you because that will do good to you. This is a cult, but you know what? Historians say, what's the difference between a cult and a religion? 100 years. Today, oh, it's a religion, we have to respect it. But if they preach hatred, that's not a belief system we should respect. No, no, no. No, no, no. Something like this, like Nazism, like any kind of religion, doesn't matter what is the flag. You can say you preach in the name of the original Torah on Mount Sinai. You can preach by a new message and another upgrade, but you preach hatred. For most of the world, it is not like you. And you're not tolerating anything, but with hatred. This is Amalek. That has to be taken away from the, public space. There's no place for that. So we are, as I said, for a few years already, we are right now in the middle of World War III. And the war is just about that. It's about those people who follow the God of Mount Sinai, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who follow the God of love that is everywhere in every human being, in every creature, in every plant, in every object, that without him nothing can survive even a split second because everything, and then you see, you're making a unification. God is everywhere. God is everything, in every person. So you can love others, but you don't love their klipot, their shells, their negativity. You love the core. You love the holy soul within. When you do that, the Zohar is teaching us, this is the part of humanity that is moving forward towards the Messianic days. However, that part of humanity that is still obsessed with hatred, you could see that hatred towards the Jews, hatred towards the Torah, hatred towards people who have love of God. What is this hatred? What is this obsession? Because it's a pathological obsession. Why I say pathological? Because what we see happening right now in Iran, Iran could have been one of the richest countries in the world. The resources, the minerals, the people, the talents, the engineering talents, the scientific talent. And what did they do? They harnessed all of that power for the killing of the Jewish nation. Everything was made like this. So now now this is the removing of the Amalek. When? On Shabbat, Zachor, when we read in every synagogue to erase Amalek and its memory from the face of the earth. Because that obsession is incurable. Look at Iran today. Instead of becoming one of the richest countries in the world and the most wealthiest and happiest, it became a disaster that cannot even provide the basic needs of water and electricity and housing to its people. What a shame. The same thing happened with the Nazis. They took, again, a very, very, very successful, powerful society, harnessed everything towards hatred, killing, murdering, and especially targeting the Jews. What happened? Millions of Germans were killed. Big part of German was destroyed. They lost maybe 1/3 of their territory, and they lost their lead as one of the biggest superpowers in the world, and they're still not getting there today. Why? That is a pathological obsession. Why it's pathological? Because it's a disease that kills the carrier of the disease. So when we see how right now the nations of the world politics is divided on that line, believing in a loving, infinite God that is everywhere in every person. And how do you see? When those people demonstrate, it's singing in love. When those people work, it's with love. When those people create a society, it is with love. In the same way is the others creating everything with hatred, pathological hatred. You have to stay away from that. And the leaders have to be removed because that's a pathological, useless disease. So we are just in the middle of a great world war. This is the war. It's about faith. It's about God. It's about love. And it's about also putting the boundaries. You cannot tolerate such a lie, such a negativity. In the days of Purim coming, we get the power to overcome, to always, even in the darkest moments, to feel hope, to feel there's light in the end of the tunnel, to feel that light is much, much stronger than the darkness. And miracles do happen. And when you have God in your life, this is the greatest miracle. And that the miracle of finding that God, few times a day, when things are hard, when things are not easy, this is the greatest miracle. So good luck to us all, and be that person who makes the yichud by studying, meditating, getting the whole world as one with love and bliss, because that's the desire, the will of the Creator. Good luck to us all.